have several recording. We have redundant recorders because we've lost one podcast with
Oh, I feel
Rich
that.
Rebuilds, by the way. It was good.
I
He
feel
dropped
that.
some unpublished news at the time, and we couldn't be the first ones to break it because the broadcast was sucked, the sound sucked. So, anyways, now we learned from that. Now we have redundancy. So, Nikki,
Hey, good to see you again, you. How's it going?
welcome to the Jehu Garcia podcast. The Jehu Garcia boy. Yeah, thank you for joining me here. Thank you for being one of my guests.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I have to be really British this time.
Yes, please be as British
Because
as
the
you
last
can
time,
because your audience doesn't.
jolly good, what ho, good show, spiffing, pip pip.
Yes. Last time, your audience was complaining that you were not British enough while you were around me. You forgot the camera.
Right.
It turns out.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I'm a vocal chameleon, which means that if I'm talking to somebody who is not British, my accent shifts. And sometimes it happens, like I can do it intentionally. It's a lot easier for me to switch back to an intentional British accent. But sometimes if I am like getting carried away with something, my accent does shift. And I do voiceover work. People don't know this, but I sometimes do voiceover work and a bit of acting on the side. And so I have no
You
excuse,
were playing an
basically.
American in my vlog. You were playing an American, and people didn't know that.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I will try really hard. I play a character in one of my, I do a lot of cosplay and costuming, and I have a character who is terribly British, very, very British. You know, she speaks like that, and I shall try very hard for the rest of the interview to just stay like that, you know.
There you
Yes.
go, Mary
Anyway.
Poppins style. There you go. Status. Right? Doesn't she speak like that? I think that's
Right, exactly, exactly.
yeah, that's crazy. Well, welcome to my podcast. For those of you who might not know, Nikki has a YouTube channel. You call it Transport Evolved, right? Transport Evolved, is that
Right, TransportEvolved.
so that it's all
Believe it or
about
not, we're 10 years old.
what's that?
We're 10 years old.
Holy crap! Really? You've been doing it for 10 years? That
Yeah.
is crazy. That's a crazy amount of dedication there. I think.
Well, we're bigger now. So there's more of us. It's not just me
Yeah.
anymore. So we've
Oh yeah,
got
you have a whole team. I
we
got
have
to
a
see
whole
that.
team.
Yeah,
So we've got Kate and
yeah, we crossed paths in several places, right? The LA Auto Show, you were here, and then Texas at the other thing, and you had your full team out there.
yeah, so we had, who did we have in LA? We had Brandon, myself, Kate, and Erin. And then for Fully Charged, we had Erin, Kate, and myself. But there's the full team is Brandon 1 and Brandon 2, who are our camera guys. They kind of just come in and help us when we need it. They're not full time. And then we have Kate Walton Elliott, who is like, I've known her 20 years. We're like best friends. We joke that we are sisters from different mothers, basically. And we've been cooking up trouble in first the classic car world and then the electric car world together for like 20 years. And then we have Erin, who is a fantastic animator and the best PA that you're ever going to need for anything like production assistant. She just gets stuff done. When we do a big event, she's the boss, not me. She's the boss. And then we have Michael, who is another one of our camera guys who comes in. He's another freelancer who just dips in and out whenever he pinged me the other day and was like, hey, what are these things? That was the charging stations for Electrify America. And he said, do you want some B-roll? And I'm like, yes, dude. And then who do we go? Who else do we have? We have our new member of the team who, as actually, this is a first because we haven't publicly introduced him yet. His name is Morgan. He's an engineering student, and he just literally joined the team last week. So he's writing scripts for me because I don't know anything about electric vehicles, honestly. Really. Wow. It's other people. They just tell me what to say, and I just.
You're like me. No, I seriously don't know a lot about electric vehicles because I I'm so wrapped up in my own stuff. So I'm like, what's going out there? I don't know. People ask me Tesla questions all the time. I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. Right? Because I don't
Well,
keep.
you know what? One of the big things going on right now is poor Uncle Rich has had his referral code taken away by
Oh, that's
Tesla.
right. That's right. And he told me that on the podcast here before he announced it to the world. And I can't
Right.
break it. He also told me something else. He told me something else that now he's shared. And well, he basically told me that he was going back to gas cars, or he was going to post with gas cars. And what if people following or are not following this, he got that video taken down 3 times by,
I couldn't believe it.
I think it was fans, right? I think fans were like they were like massively like downvoting it or reporting it as something like as a
Community guideline. It was community guideline violations, and I just cannot believe why anyone would do that. Rich is a lovely guy. I know he plays it up a bit on YouTube, but then who doesn't? And he is a real authentic car person. For he actually knows his car stuff, and I've talked to him about car stuff, and we did a little collab with him at Fully Charged Live. And the fact that he gets bored with car projects, I can't criticize that, because I think I've owned rather a large number of vehicles over the years, and I get that. You get an itch to scratch. You buy the car, you work on it, you own it for a bit, and then you go, that was fun, it's time for something else. And he's done so much to help people into electric vehicles who would otherwise not do it. And I'm a big right to repair advocate, and it really upsets me the way that some car companies are behaving towards anybody who wants to work on their own vehicle. And yes, Tesla, I suppose, is the biggest proponent of that. It's known for taking people's cars off the supercharger network if it's been involved in an accident and it's been repaired. They're really funny about third-party parts and spares. I know of several people who are trying to do a Tesla engineered project where they've actually had to keep everything hidden. And I'm sure you know this, and I don't think I'm breaking anybody's confidence by talking about this. There's an entire underground network of people, engineers, enthusiasts, who are reverse engineering Teslas, who are hacking Teslas, who are getting Teslas to do things that maybe Tesla corporate would never want the cars to be used for.
Yeah.
A lot of that is for retrofitting electric drivetrains into other vehicles.
Yeah.
Like just like you did with your Samba,
Yeah, I'm actually getting ready to do that on mine.
So it really upsets me when companies do that, because we have to keep vehicles on the road for as long as we possibly can. If we want it, if we're doing this for environmental reasons, we have to keep cars on the road for as long as we possibly can. Electric drivetrains and batteries are a great way of doing that. Second life battery projects, as you yourself have demonstrated with your fantastic Powerwalls, are a great way of ensuring that battery packs that were once in an EV can then be reused and given a second life in static grid projects. And when you have a company that says, no, you can't use our parts, or no, we won't let you rebuild this car, they're essentially saying, I'm sorry, all of this equipment is now junk. And that is counterintuitive, personally. I feel this. It's counterintuitive to the narrative of driving electric vehicles are good for the environment. And I know that there are people who do it for hobby because it's fun and it's different and it's just a different powertrain system. And I come at this from a world of, when I was very little, I witnessed a big environmental disaster that changed the course of my life. And that is why I do it. But I'm also a complete, petrol head car person, and I love cars. And so that merging of electric and also the greener aspect of owning an EV make perfect sense to me. And so when Tesla says, no, you can't use this part, but it's not just Tesla. It's an auto industry thing that cars are becoming harder to work on and right to repairs. Same in the agricultural world, obviously with John Deere and stuff like that. So I want to see more of that. That's why I'm such a fan of what you do, because you're encouraging people to rebuild and re-engineer existing vehicles with electric drivetrains. And I think we need to see more of that. And we're actually about to embark on a project at TransportEvolved doing just that.
Really? What are you doing?
We had agreed to buy a 1974 city car.
The little wedge ones.
Little lemon wedges. Absolutely terrible, crappy car. Terrible car. And we don't intend to do anything like super over the top with it. We're not going to turn it into a dragster or anything like that. I just happened to see it in a local town and was like, that's in pretty half decent condition. I wonder if the guy would sell it to me. And it turned out he wants to sell it to me, and he's happy to sell it to me. I'm just waiting for him to find the title. And then coronavirus came along and all of that. But our goal is to try and build a recycled EV from scratch using salvage parts. So right now we're eyeballing a Toyota rear axle from the RAV4 hybrids, or possibly the Lexus hybrids, that 50 kilowatt rear motor, and using that probably at half power, limit the power for it, because you're not going to need a whole lot of power for that.
Power. Yes, 50 horsepower is a lot.
And then 50 horsepower is a lot, so we could run that at half the power output and still have really decent performance for such a small vehicle. And then salvage cells, probably an open source or a hacked controller. I know Damien Maguire's doing great stuff at the moment with his open source stuff over in Ireland, and so potentially doing it like that. Another option that hit me a couple of days ago when I was in the shower, because all the good thoughts hit you in the shower, was I bet the wheelbase I bet that the axle width on the Smart ForTwo is about the same as the city car. Might be a little wider on the city car, but I was thinking, what if you could put a Smart ForTwo rear axle drivetrain in there? That would be about right as well.
Right now, what does it currently have?
It has I think it's a 4 kilowatt motor.
Yeah, I mean, no, but is it set in its own housing with one gear, or is it transverse? Like
it's transverse, I believe, with a rear diff. I don't have the car yet, so I'm just going based on what I've seen. And it's partly disassembled anyway, so I'm going to have to take it apart. The big challenge for me is learning to TIG weld aluminium. Did you see? I stuck with the British thing, aluminium, extra syllable. So I've got to learn how to TIG weld aluminium.
No way, you're taking that on? I haven't taken
why
that
not?
On. I'm like,
why not? Because
that's much for me.
Because it's an aluminium space frame. And then it's an ABS tub on the outside. So I'm thinking, if we're going to add extra power to it, we're probably going to want to add a little bit more substance inside, which probably means I'm going to have to do some welding of the aluminium. I can weld, but my welding skills, I've MIG welded before, and I've also stick welded, and neither of them are particularly good. But then I haven't had a whole lot of time and practice to put in. So with the new members of staff on the team, my goal is to no longer sit at my desk for 70 or 80 hours a week, which is what we've been doing. And so we've got more people coming on board. I want to get more presenters in, and then I want to have fun. Not that I don't have fun making videos, but I want other people to take part in the process, to have other people edit the videos and do all of those things. And that would give me more time to do projects like this one, which are a little bit crazy, but I think would be a whole lot of fun.
To tell you the truth, it's a bit ambitious, in my opinion, because you want to reuse a powertrain, and in my experience, it's been really hard. Like, unless you have a friend that knows how to hack and code, then right. So
I have some contacts.
okay, so maybe you're prepared for it, right? But for us, we've gone the other way where we use products that are kind of designed or manufactured for that, for third party, applications or whatever. So we have the Hyper 9s, the AC50s, and now the Tesla motors, right?
Right.
But out of those, the Tesla motors are being the hardest because there's been a ton of energy put into those by several people around the world too.
Yeah.
But the payoff is big because you get 500 horsepower. So,
I know some people. Let's just leave it like that. And I keep that kind of close to my chest. A lot of people don't think I joked at the beginning, I don't know anything about electric cars, but I'm a total nerd when it comes to engineering and fixing things and making things. And so I have quite a few contacts who I've talked to about the project, some of whom have gone, "You're crazy." Some of whom have gone, "Yeah." And so I've got, I'm working through. We do have access to a Warp 9 somewhere along the space, but that's really overpowered for what I want to put in there. That would be stupid.
You don't want that. You don't want
And
these.
it's old tech, right?
Yeah.
And I would have to redo the brushes as well. Like I would need to basically resurface the rings and replace the brushes and make sure the timing was right. And because I think the timing had been advanced, and I'm like, you know what? And then put new bearings in it and all these other things.
It's definitely not like an AC motor where it's like low maintenance. You have to change those brushes all the time. That's what we went through in the early days for us building DIY cars. We were like, DC is great. You can find motors everywhere. Every forklift's got one. And then you put them in there and they're great. They give you a ton of power, instant torque, but they're always breaking. They're always
right.
You're always replacing the stupid brushes and they're always leaking. Like you're leaking voltage to the frame because it creates the dust that is all kinds of mess, right? So the AC was the way to go.
Honestly, it reminds me of the early days of EV ownership. Honestly, I mean, 2000 and whenever it was when I got my first EV, you had to become an expert because you didn't have anybody else to help you fix it. My first EV was a 1998 City L by a German company called Citycom. They purchased the rights to build a vehicle from a Dutch company called Citycom, or City L, I think was their original name. So it was originally a Dutch design that grew up in the early 80s. That company went bust, was acquired by a German company. They carried on making it. I think they still make them today in limited numbers, or they have done until fairly recently. It was an ABS tub. It had 36-volt lead acid batteries behind you underneath the cargo area. It had a single, basically you lifted up the entire top of the vehicle to get in and out, and then you pulled it down like a cockpit.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it was like an odd one. It wasn't like
it was an odd one. It was a three-wheeler, and it had a top speed of, wait for it, 30-something miles an hour. And it was my first electric vehicle. I bought it while I was trying to convert my Morris Minor that I had at the time to electric. But when I realized how bad the Morris Minor's chassis was, it was all bent up. There was one famous occasion where I looked at the floor and there was a hole in the floor from rust, and I cut into the floor and it was basically rust, then 7 layers of rust, and then a half decent piece of cheese metal on top. So it had been badly patched over 40 years, and the whole car was just so out of alignment. I didn't have the space needed or the skills needed to properly realign it, re-weld it. And so that project went by the by. So instead, I took the 36-volt lead acid battery pack and replaced it with a 43-volt Thunder Sky 200 amp hour lithium-ion pack that I purchased.
Whoa.
with a battery management system that was developed by a guy called Dennis Dörfrohr, who was a German guy living in the UK. I can't remember the name of his company, but he developed this and he sold me basically one of the early prototypes. I made my own wiring loom. I basically spent a weekend designing and building and crimping and heat shrinking my own loom. I then wired it into that car, and it ran on lithium, and it increased the top speed. I had to put a new controller in it as well, because I blew the original controller because it just couldn't handle the extra voltage. And in total, I think I probably increased the top speed to like 50 or 55 miles an hour.
Wow.
I once hit 60 in it, which was truly a scary experience.
Okay, so it didn't feel like it was safe to be doing those speeds?
No, you had to treat it like a motorbike, basically. But I'm a biker as well, so I'm like, that was fine. It was.
Oh wow!
And from there, I had a plug-in. Sorry?
How long did you drive that car for?
I think I had it for 2 years in total, and then after that, I bought a Prius, boring old Prius.
Yes.
And I converted that to a plug-in Prius.
Most uncool of the electric cars.
Right, but there was a guy in Canada who had a CAN modification, basically a CAN modification box. It sat on the CAN bus and interpreted the CAN signals. Mm-hmm. And you could then splice in a battery charger and extra battery packs to turn it into a plug-in Prius.
Oh, okay.
His original installation guide had you splicing into the car's original loom, and I didn't like the look of that, so I basically went to a junkyard and I bought defunct Prius parts so that I could make my own wiring loom that I literally could just plug into the existing OEM loom, like effectively a bypass through the CAN box. And I put 2 Prius nickel metal hydride packs in parallel with the original one, put that in the car, and I drove it for about 1.5 years. But unfortunately, I killed it. Sorry?
You doubled the size of the battery.
I tripled the size of the original battery. Really? So I had a 3-pack Prius, and I took the 2 auxiliary batteries out of their original cases, and I made a frame that fit under the floor of the original Prius. So I took the spare wheel out, I put some of the batteries in the spare wheel well, and then I put some of the batteries in the subfloor with their own kind of compression setup so that they wouldn't have any problems. But the issue with that one was that I didn't put any thermal management in.
Oh, I see.
And one day, it was July 2008 or 2009, the night before Tesla opened its original UK store. I had been out and about that day, and I was still working as a teacher back then. And I'd driven a large number of miles because my job as a music teacher was to drive around different schools and to go from one school to the next. And so I think that day I'd driven to one school in the morning, driven back home, charged the car up, driven to another place, drove back home, charged the car up, and then drove to a private student's and back. So I drove, charged. And at that point, it was a really hot summer's day. The pack was already hot. And somewhere between me arriving home and it finishing charging, one of those packs went short. One of the modules went short. Mm-hmm. And we all know what happens with nickel metal hydride cells when they short circuit.
I don't. What happens?
And they're charging. So what happened was there was obviously a voltage drop, and so the charger assumed that the pack wasn't full.
Yeah.
And it kept trying to push power into the pack. And nickel metal hydride cells, if you overcharge them, go into extreme thermal runaway.
Really? I didn't know that. Really?
Yes. And so this thing essentially exploded. The pack exploded. The car didn't explode, but the pack exploded. And it was probably about 2:00 in the morning. It was a hot day. I'd got the bedroom window open, and I heard what originally sounded like fireworks. I was awoken by this sound. And then it sounded more like popcorn. On the other side of the house, on the driveway. So I went outside, and sure enough, the cells were just popping like popcorn in the back of the car. I told the insurance company that I'd modified the car, thank goodness. Otherwise, I'd have probably had someone, tell me my insurance was not valid. But when they came around to look at the car to assess the damage, I just handed the insurance adjuster a pair of chemical gloves and a respirator. And he said, what's that for? I said, well, see that black stuff that's coating the rear window? He said, yeah. I said, that's the inside of a nickel metal hydride battery.
Okay.
He said, no, that's fine. He wrote down total loss and walked away.
Really? Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So
and after that, it was just another stream of. I mean, I had weird car. I had an '85 Volkswagen Golf that was electric that never should have entered into private hands, and is now back at Volkswagen's heritage quarters. Yeah, it's just weird.
Wow!
Sorry, you were going to say something. I cut you off.
I didn't know you were really like a hands-on builder. I thought you were mostly like a talking head, right? And we've never had a chance to sit and talk about all this.
Right. Right.
That is crazy. You've been around. You've been building stuff more than me, bro.
These days I'm more like I do a lot of 3D printing, do some 3D printing stuff. I mean, this was not. I didn't make this. I made this, but I didn't design this. Headphone stand. And I'm currently building I've got to rewire the house and put a power over Ethernet cable from our server room out to our chicken coop. I've built a case for an infrared camera because we have coyotes and bears and all kinds of things up here. So to keep the chickens safe.
You were in Portland area, right?
Right. Yeah. So the last time you saw me, or the last time you were in Portland, when I had the RAV4.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I sold it the very next day. Or did I sell it the same day? I can't remember. I think I sold it the very next day.
Okay. That was it. Yeah, I remember you said that you were like looking to get another one or something, or you were going to get, what were you going to get? You were going to get something else.
Yeah. So I ended up buying a Bolt. I was gonna get a Spark, like a used Spark EV or a Fiat 500. But what happened was that after my experience with Toyota nickel metal hydride cells, we had that RAV4 as a project to see if you could actually live with an old first generation electric car.
Yeah.
And so I drove that for a number of years. I put a new battery pack in it because when we got it, it was completely dead. We put a new battery pack in it.
That was also a metal hydride battery, right?
Exactly, nickel metal hydride, and I got a local specialist to put that in. Oh, wow. And when it started going wrong, that same person was like, well, I can't look at this car for about 4 months. And I'm saying, I need reliable transport. We had one of our family members had regular trips to the hospital, and we needed to get from Portland to the other side of kind of southern Oregon to take them to various appointments. And so we needed something else. We had a Nissan Leaf was our other car. And so I think it was the same day, actually, after we'd filmed, I went and talked to a local dealership. How much would you give me for a trade-in? They didn't give me a huge amount, actually, but what I did manage to find was an accident-damaged Bolt. They said, would you consider a car that had been in an accident? And I'm like, well, what exactly is the accident? And they had my Chevrolet Bolt that I now own had been taken off the car transporter at the dealership in the first couple of weeks after the Bolt was launched. So it was really early one. Okay. But whoever the kid was who was taking it off the trailer, and it was probably one of the kids at the dealership who had their license a year or so, they put their foot on the throttle and smashed it into a lamppost.
Okay.
So the dealership had this brand new unregistered car that had a mile on the clock.
Wow.
With an entirely smashed in front end. I mean, they had to replace the radiator and the front crossmember, the hood. I don't think the airbag went off, but it did a significant amount of damage. So they gave me $7,500 off that car, which is why I ended up buying it.
Okay. But then you have to fix
So
it.
that they
Or
fixed it.
Oh,
They had fixed it.
Oh,
But
okay.
obviously they were under legal obligation to tell people it had been in an accident. And your average buyer, when they're told your car's been in an accident, go, no.
Yeah.
It had never been registered at that point. And there was a bit of a loophole, and it was repaired to Chevy standards by the Chevy body shop. You know, they had got sign off from General Motors to continue to sell it. They just were having trouble selling it. So
Yeah, nobody
they
wants to
sold
buy
it to
a
me.
new car that's been repaired already.
So that's my car. I mean, I've got it. I've just finished leasing it. I had it for 3 years on a lease, and I liked it so much that I've taken out a small loan and I'm buying it. So
I had two of those, and they're amazing cars. They're just so easy to drive, right? If you forget to charge it, who cares? You just drive it up, put a little bit of gas on it, you just drive. But you can drive it around 100% electric if you drive less than 40 miles a day. And
no, this is a Bolt with a B, not a V.
Oh, okay.
So this is the all-electric one. Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's the new one. Okay. Oh, okay.
But
yeah.
I drove it to Texas from Portland.
Oh, okay. That's how you made it in Texas. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
we
that
drove
one
it.
I don't know because I never owned one of those. I jumped straight into the Teslas after my Volt, right? The V or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one has a full-size battery, right? And so you were fast charging on the way?
Yep, fast charging. So I have done 3 big road trips in it, 3 or 4 big road trips in it. We took it. We've actually taken it to Las Vegas twice now for CES.
Oh wow!
This year when we took it, we towed a trailer behind the car with all the camera gear in, because you know what it's like, right? You've got 2 rigs, you've got your shoulder stuff, you've got the lights, the tripods, and all that stuff.
I don't know how it is because I just carry my little.
I've seen your gear. And so we had all of that stuff. We had 2 big computers for editing. And so we took that with us. I have a little motorcycle trailer that all the company gear goes in, and we take to events. And it did just fine. And then when we went to Texas, we managed to get everything in the car that time, and we just drove 4 days to Texas. We were there for 2, and then we drove 4 days back.
Wow, that's crazy. But you were stopping. But you were the scenic route, right? You took the scenic route.
We went down I-5, so we went down the I-5, and then we hopped across into Arizona, and then through New Mexico.
Yeah, I guess. There's not much to see up in Northern California. It's a few mountains, Shasta Mountain.
Yeah.
That's about it.
It's pretty. I mean, it was pretty. But, I think one day we did 800 and some miles, which was pushing it in a single day.
How long were you charging? You were charged. So that car does CCS combo.
CCS combo, 50 kilowatt max, and we were doing, I think it took us about 45 minutes to charge. But on the way down, we charged differently to on the way back. So on the way down, we'd drive until the car got nearly empty. We'd stop and charge, and we'd wait until it was nearly full, and then we'd go on. But and in some parts of Texas, we didn't have this option. But as soon as we hit California, what we started to do was drive the car until it was almost empty, drive it, charge it to 40 or 50%, maybe 60, at which point the charge curve really starts to drop, the charge rate. And then we just drive to the next charging station, which was within easy reach, and then just repeat the process. And that was a lot faster than skipping charging stations but waiting until you had 200 miles of range. And that meant we actually got back a lot faster than we'd planned. Part of that was because my best mate Kate, who was with us, said to me while we were in Texas, Nikki, you know, you told me to take these days off. Well, I don't have this day. And it meant basically that she had to be back at work a day earlier than we'd originally planned, which meant we had to really push hard when we were coming home.
Oh, wow.
But we did it. I mean, we did it. I think we left Texas on the Monday morning, and we were home in Portland by lunchtime on Thursday.
Wow.
Which, you know, was a hard trip, but it was totally doable. But I think at that point, anybody doing a long distance trip in an EV is going to struggle, because it would be like a long distance trip in any car, right?
Yeah,
Mentally, you can't do more than about 600 miles in a day before you start to go a bit loopy and you start to want to kill the people you're in the car with. I mean,
yeah.
that's certainly how it felt for
I
me.
remember driving to Missouri once. I took my bus. I hauled my bus to, you know, Jack Rickard's old, what was it? Is FCon, right? And
Yes. Yeah.
I remember just breaking down somewhere along the way, and I wasn't even driving. My brother was driving. And I'm like, look, we got to stop. There's like no way I can sit here in this car. It's like yesterday morning we were in Texas, and this is another day, and we're still in Texas. I'm like, get me off of this car.
Yeah.
I need to see a bed. And so even if the car can keep going, sometimes you can't. You're just like, I want
Right.
So
that first day coming back from Fully Charged, we drove from Austin all the way back to oh goodness, the border.
The border, Texas?
Right to the border of New Mexico. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So
Yeah.
we drove that in one day. That was crazy.
That is
And the second day we drove from there all the way through to California.
Yeah.
And we stopped, and that included a half-hour stop in Phoenix to see a friend. And then that last day we drove pretty much all the way up to Oregon, and we stopped overnight in Medford, or just Ashland, sorry. And then that last day we got up early and just drove from Ashland to Portland, which was easy. It was like 260 miles.
Wow.
But that was a I was supposed to be driving back from the East Coast right now. I was going to do a charity run from Portland, from West Coast. I was going to, because I live about 60 miles from the coast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no longer actually in Portland proper. I'm out in the country, about 25, 30 miles out of Portland. I was going to drive to the West Coast, to Seaside maybe, and then drive from there all the way across America in aid of ALS research to the East Coast, loop back to a convention that I was going to in Pittsburgh, which was last weekend, or supposed to be last weekend, and then drive back. So that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to do it again next year. The rapid charge network in the US is so much better than it used to be. Like when you did that trip, you were really like on your own.
Yeah.
But now it's a lot better as long as you've got rapid charging.
It's so crazy. The other day we went to Joshua Tree, which it's not too far from. It's like 100 miles from here, from my house. I think it's exactly 100 miles to the gate. And we took the Model 3, right? This is a while ago. Like we had just gotten the Model 3. And we were there for sunset. And it's cool because you can literally see all the satellites. You know, and this is around the time that SpaceX had just sent the first batch of. So anyways, it's cool because people don't know this, but if you go there far enough from city, you look up and you can see all the satellites. It's crazy. It's like, there's a lot of traffic up there. There's a lot of them. And I'm like thinking like, you know, people don't get this. Like when I started driving electric cars, this was not possible. Like you couldn't just drive to the desert, you know, and now, I mean, you're like, okay, we have like 40 miles of range, but there's like a charging station right at the entrance of the park. You just go down and then you charge, you're there for 10 minutes and then you're all the way home. Like this thing is different now. Like this is real. 7 years ago, and I started.
Right.
This is a dream, and now it's real. And I'm like, I don't think people realize what it took for us to get here. It was a lot of work, a lot of people, right?
I think we were all a bit crazy. I know that I'm completely loopy and bonkers.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't care how we get to the end point. I just want people to be driving transportation that has a lower impact on the planet we live in. And I'm also really big about democratization of energy. I think everybody should have a solar panel on their roof, and everybody should have a battery backup. Everybody should have microgrid, especially as
Yeah.
where we are right now, right? Politically, things are a little bit crazy in America. I think I can say that now. I am a card-carrying citizen.
Oh, really?
So I
I'm
can
not.
say
So
it.
I'm not American, but I pay taxes. So screw every one of you that says I don't have to say so. But I think you're right. Everyone should have a micro system. I
Yeah,
have this little system. I made a video years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or something. It was $1,500 for a system.
a video.
Well, one of these. And that system has paid for itself now. And not only
Right.
that, it's made me the same amount. So it's made me like almost $2,000 already. It's paid for itself, and then now it's made me money. And it's literally like $1,500 worth of stuff. Threw up on my roof, installed it. Everybody should have that. You know.
So you're gonna have to give me some advice here, because I want to put solar panels on my roof. And we have a 2,000 square foot house,
Mm-hmm.
and we have there's a roof outside. This like the first floor has a little bit of a roof, and then the second floor has a roof as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I reckon we probably need ultimately about 20 kilowatt peak system for us to really feel the impact. But we can't afford a 20 kilowatt peak, so we want to build a system in a modular way.
Oh,
So I want to put, and people say to me again, people keep saying to me, why don't you buy a Tesla system? Why don't you do the Tesla solar roof? Like, because I want to be able to get my hands dirty. I want to save myself a bit of money.
yeah.
I'm British. We don't open our wallets very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to fix it when it goes wrong. And that's why I want to build it myself. So
Yeah, you can
I'm going to have
start.
to pick your brains.
Okay, so let's start. It's actually very simple. Um, how much? Well, yeah, you said you can't afford the full system. You don't need to. See, there's the beauty about this. You installed a small grid tie system, okay? And it could be one panel and one micro inverter. That's it. And whatever you make, you spend quite a bit of time during the day at home?
Well, we are now 100% at home, which
Okay,
is part of the problem.
there you go. So that means you're using energy. Are you on a time of use? Uh,
We're not on a time of use because Oregon is really cheap with electricity, and at the moment we pay for a green energy thing. So our electricity bill is crazy. I mean, like, I'm embarrassed by our electricity bill
what do you
because
mean?
we have electric heating. So there's cadet heaters in all the
Oh,
walls.
I see it's saying. It's cheap, so you guys use everything is electric.
Everything is electric, right? But in the wintertime, our electricity bill could be like $400 a month
Yeah.
because we're using electric heating. We've
Oh.
got 5 servers right now, four or 5 servers right now, because they were at TransportEvolved. They're now at the house because we have to store all the B-roll, right? So when a car company comes out with a new car, you grab all the video assets and then you have to keep it, because after about a year, especially if there's a controversy or there's a recall or something else involving that car, they remove all the bloody B-roll. Sorry, I swore, but I'm swearing as a Brit, so I think bloody, if
That's
a
not.
Brit says bloody, it's okay.
Yeah,
It's
that's not.
okay. So they took
To
all
us.
of the, you have to take all of the B-roll and we keep it. So we've got 100 and, well, some new drives arrived today. So we've now got 150 terabytes on the primary server, and we've got 58 terabytes on the secondary backup server. So yes, so we use a lot of electricity,
So
and I think that probably means
what's your 24-hour energy consumption in kilowatt hours? You know?
it has to be, it's kind of somewhere between 60 and 150, depending on where we go and what we do, right? So we've got two cars. They're both electric. They both have 60 kilowatt hour battery packs. So if we both go out somewhere and we flatten the cars.
What do you pay for kilowatt hour?
It's like, oh, that's a good question. I think it's like 11.5 cents.
It's cheap, but it's not super cheap. It's I pay that much super off peak, they call it.
Yeah.
To 6 in the morning or so. Wait, so is there a way for you to get into a time of use plan? Do they offer it?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, we can definitely get into a time of use.
That's what you do, right? So the reason you do that is because then you shift the expense, right, to the midday, which is when it's peak time. But during that time, that's when the sun is out, and that's when your solar panels are producing. So that means that you can go now from a panel creating you $3 a day or something, electricity, because it's 11 cents a kilowatt, to then if you shift that to fully peak, where now each kilowatt hour is worth like 50 cents, then all of a sudden that panel is creating a ton more money for you, right? And so that's how you do it. You basically shift all the expense to those 6 hours or 3 hours, whatever is the time frame that you can do, and you start putting like little solar panels. And that's when you like most of your energy usage is not during the day, anytime, right? I mean, like in the winter, it's if you're heating yourself with electricity, then that's at night, and then you're paying cheap prices on that. So that's one thing. And then the reason why this is super cool is because it's modular. You can just keep going. Literally, the micro inverters are one per panel, so you can add one and one, right? Like little sets.
Right.
And you don't have to run any like expensive lines through your house, because you literally can tie them to kind of existing circuits if you wanted to. Now you could do it legit, run another line, but running AC lines are not super expensive as opposed to running low voltage DC lines, right?
Right.
And so then the other thing that you can do is you can have and build a DIY power wall, which is a grid tie version. And basically all that is a battery box with a charger and a grid tie inverter inside. And basically once you're in a time of use, you charge it at night when it's cheap, and then you use it during the day when you turn your AC on or whatever, so that you can keep your peak consumption down. So you're just peak shaving your peak. What is that called?
Peak shaving. I think you that does sound right.
There's something, and it's when you're peak, when you're moving the peaks and you're putting them.
Yes. Yeah.
Other times.
I've watched your video. That's it, peak shifting. I've watched your video where you took basically an off-the-shelf UPS and did that, and that caused some significant planning over here.
Oh, really?
Let's just leave it at that. Yeah, but I mean, the challenge for us really is just keeping the servers running. A lot of people say, well, why do you have servers? Why do you keep them running? Why can't you use a server farm somewhere? And the answer is that I live in the country and we have 20 megabit per second internet.
Oh, Jesus. Is that what we're on here?
And we're on a 20 meg connection.
I know. Last time you showed me your office, you had megabit, right?
We had a gigabit connection at the downtown office. Yes. And then we moved out to Portland, and it breaks my heart because we had an office in downtown Portland. It was part of a shared office, and that was a gigabit. Then we moved to a separate office in Portland, which was about 600 square feet. That's where my first employee joined us, but it was one room. So it meant that if I needed to film or she needed to do something, the other person had to basically disappear, go and get coffee or whatever. And that wasn't very conducive to work. So last August, we moved out to Hillsborough, where there are a lot of commercial units. And we had a proper commercial unit with a roll-up door and a separate filming space where we had like 2 or 3 different sets, and we had an edit suite so we could go and edit, and it was perfect. But then coronavirus came along.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but when you're running a business and your job as the owner of the business is to make sure that your employees are safe and they are well and they are healthy and that they have a job. Screw the bottom line. Screw my personal pain. If I don't get paid, fine. I have to make sure everybody else gets paid because they're relying on me, and that's my responsibility to make sure they get paid. So as soon as the things started to get really bad, early March, April time, I basically rang up Erin and said, I don't want you to come into the office anymore. And there was this bit of a pause, and she said, what's going on? And I said, we need to start working from home. And so she took her edit machine to her home, and she's now working at home. I'm working from home, and in about, I think this coming weekend, we're going to clear out the rest of the studio. That's why it's a bit crazy in here, because you've got a load of extra stuff and camera gear that was never intended to be in this house, now in this house. I like having things separate, personal life and work life, but I can't justify spending a lot of money every month renting a building that I may not be able to use, or it may not be safe for people to come to. And so I basically pared down. We've turned our guest room, which is actually the largest room in this house, into a makeshift studio. I put all the acoustic wall treatments up that were in the studio in Portland. I've put up, lighting. We've changed the feel and the set, and seems to be working right now. We have to wait another year or so, I think, and then we'll probably build maybe a studio in the garden, because we've got a little bit of land. We'll probably build something in the garden, but it's more important to keep the company running and to be authentic than it is to have a flashy building and a studio. And it breaks my heart, but it was a smart decision to make.
That's crazy, right? 2020 totally put a wrench in everyone's plans. It was crazy.
We're still here.
We're fine. Yeah. And we'll be here. It'll be fine. I think, it'll be fine for a lot of us. If you like, I've always said that, like, us that know how to hustle, right? That haven't come into things easily, will be fine. Like, this is business as usual for us. But it's all the people who have a job, that go to a bank, that go to some office to do something, or those people are really hurting, right? And they don't know how to hustle like us, and so those people are really hurting. We'll be fine. We can do things around. You're not strange to adversity, right? Like, you're trying,
right. The last time I was employed by someone, I can't remember. I can't remember the last time I was employed by someone. I've been running my own businesses I've been running my own businesses now since about 2007, 2008. And before that, I was freelancing, so I guess that kind of counts.
Yeah.
My view, when it comes to employment, is you need to find a way of doing something that you find interesting and that is fun, and then figure out a way of getting people to pay you to do it.
Yes.
The reason why, my dream job, I'm not going to lie here, my dream job would be working for something like Discovery Channel.
Really?
Doing documentaries. I have wanted to do a document. There's a documentary that I keep talking about making, and one day I'm going to actually make it. And if I had the balls, I would actually do a Kickstarter and kick it off. But I have a lot on my plate at the moment, so probably won't. But the idea was like a citizen documentary, working with filmmakers around the world, documenting how people get to work and how our post-industrial world needs to change in the way that we work. And then COVID came along, and everybody's like, oh yeah, we can work from home. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And I think that you need to find a way of finding something that you enjoy doing and then figuring out a way of getting people to pay you to do it. I would also love to get into voiceover work because I love doing voices and doing silly things. And I've had a couple of people come up to me and say, you should do voiceover acting professionally. But I love EVs. I love the sector. I love the space. I want to see it succeed. I am not against any one company. I am not pro any one company. And my goal is to be honest at all turns, and if a company does something that's stupid, to tell them, hey, that was stupid. If they do something that's amazing, go, good on you guys, that's amazing. Case in point, today BMW has just announced it's changing where it's getting its cobalt from. So it's basically completely washing its hands of any cobalt from the DRC. And obviously DRC cobalt is really problematic because a lot of it comes from artisan mines, and it's all, the ethics of that are terrible because it involves child labor, slave labor, forced work, whatever you want to call it. And BMW's gone, okay, we've got this company in Marrakesh that we're going to work with in Morocco. We are satisfied that they are sourcing ethical they are mining ethical cobalt, and then we're going to work with these guys in Australia, and this is how we're going to do it. By the way, we're going to get rid of cobalt eventually, but this is the way we're going to do it. That is phenomenally good news, and BMW should be praised for that. A couple of weeks ago, I was criticizing BMW for doing something stupid with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. It's possible to be able to praise somebody when they do something right and criticize them when they do something wrong.
All or nothing.
Tesla has done so many good things in the electric vehicle space, but it's also done some monumentally head-scratching things as well. And we need to be, as humans, we need to be able to exist without that all or nothing approach, because I think you're going to get me into philosophy now, but that all or nothing approach, that you're with me or you're against me attitude, is tearing apart our society right now. And it's preventing people from collaborating. It's preventing problem solving from happening. It's preventing people from sharing common goals, even if they disagree on other things. And it's a real shame.
Yeah.
And I find myself doing it. I do find myself, if someone says something that I disagree with, I have to really stop and think, okay, that person and I have different opinions on this particular thing, but we still have shared opinions on something else. And it's really hard to do, whether it's immigration, whether it's, whether it's rights for a particular minority or particular group. And you also have to be willing and able to speak up when you see injustices and go, no, I'm not going to pander to this person. You are wrong on this issue. Here is why. Not, you're wrong, I'm not listening to you. You have to engage. You have to be part of that solution. And that's, that brings us full circle back to Tesla doing great, fantastic things and then saying, I'm sorry, you can't use that salvage car for parts. You cannot have any of our parts. We don't trust you.
And we're gonna take your rewards away.
And take your rewards away, which poor Rich.
Because now Rich he's gonna go from an advocate to now someone who feels cheated. Someone that's gonna be like, look, I helped sell the right. Didn't he mention how many millions of cars he sold? If you do the math through all the referrals that he had or whatever, and he gets nothing for that. And so essentially he got cheated off of that. So, I would be angry.
It's a tough thing, isn't it? It's a tough area. Tesla should have thought of somebody doing that before. If they didn't want anybody doing that, they should have thought of it before.
Well, we don't
as opposed to going, congratulations, you played the game, you won, because that's essentially what Rich did, right? He played the game, he won.
Wait, but do we know what the reason is for him being? I thought we were vague on it, and they just didn't say. They just like, hey, we don't like you, you're right.
I think basically they said he acted in bad faith.
Yes. Well, what does that mean? That's a super broad term. What is that?
And he was essentially, I think what they were kicking up about was the fact that he was using a salvaged Tesla to earn points. He wasn't a customer. He was somebody who had purchased the vehicle, repaired it, very expertly.
No. You can't do that. You have to have an account with them, and you have to have a thing. Like doesn't he own a
Because
property?
he bought a Model X, didn't he? A used Model X from Tesla.
Yeah.
And his videos on that were great. I love
Yeah.
They were.
So if you buy,
I think
if you buy a used Tesla from Tesla, you're not eligible to have. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe I don't know the whole story,
Something
but I thought
fishy. Something fishy going on there. But the thing that really upsets me, based on my inside knowledge, and I'm taking that in air quotes, because I don't want to get anybody into trouble.
Okay.
I meet a lot of engineers at OEMs. I've met engineers at pretty much every major OEM, some way or another, whether it's at an industry event, whether it's at a press event. Some of them are talking heads. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes car companies will roll out somebody who is supposedly an engineer, but they're actually a PR person responsible for that division, and they don't have it. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the technical know-how. But one of my goals whenever I go to an event is to try and find out pretty quickly if that's actually a real engineer. And normally I'll ask some arcane question to see what they say. And that generally gives me a good idea of whether they're real engineers or not. And of the real engineers that I have met, most of them are really chill, super cool people who are not uptight about anything like that, who actually love hearing about the ways that their vehicles are being used or the ways that their vehicles have been changed by customers or modifications. I spoke to an engineer recently about putting a tow hitch on something, and they went, of course, we officially we can't condone that, but you know, and and that is the kind of that, because let's face it, if you're into engineering, you're into engineering. Yeah. I don't know that many engineers who go, well, you didn't do it according to my rule book, so then you're a bad person. They're going, wow, I didn't know that the thing that I was working on could be used in that way. That's freaking cool. Yeah. And that's a very different experience. And I think it was corporate. I think it was Tesla corporate. I think they had been looking for an excuse to get rid of Rich for a while. Yeah. Well, yeah. I am not. I'm on the blacklist. So
you are?
I don't mind saying I'm on the blacklist.
How? Why?
This is well known, and I'm sure someone in the comments is going to say, Nikki's just moaning about it. She's just bitter that she didn't get into a Model 3 or a Model Y or blah, blah. No, genuinely. I was at, so like 3 or 4 years ago, I was on a phone call, like a press call with Tesla, at which Elon had announced autopilot rollout and FSD, and this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to work. And a day before, or maybe earlier in the same day, Volvo had come out and said, if somebody is using our vehicle and they're using our, I think it was level 2 or level 3 semi-autonomous feature, which at the time was kind of comparable, actually even less capable than Tesla's. If somebody has an accident with our car while it is driving itself, we will take care of the insurance. We'll indemnify the driver. And that obviously means that as far as the driver is concerned, their insurance doesn't change, blah, blah, blah. I asked that question of Elon. I was the first person on that call to ask a question. I was like, Volvo has just said it's going to indemnify drivers of its vehicles who have their autonomous feature enabled. Is Tesla going to do the same thing? Mm-hmm. And he went on a rant, a tirade about how journalists were killing people by implying that Tesla Autopilot was not safe, that we were, it was full bore, slightly paranoid rant about journalists killing people because they implied that Tesla Autopilot was terrible. And that was not what I was implying. I was like, hey, one of your competitors has said they'll do this. Are you going to offer a similar service? That was it. Full stop.
Yeah.
And I haven't been invited to any Tesla event since. I have not been invited on any press call. I have not been allowed to ask any questions. Tesla does not return my emails. Now, this is to put this in context. I've
Yeah.
spoken to colleagues within the industry who will remain nameless to
Mhm.
protect their own identity. They have also said Tesla does not return our emails very often. So Tesla is known for not responding
I
to
think
journalist inquiries.
there's also the possibility that you're not a customer, right? And they appreciate, I think they not appreciate, they will prioritize customers above
Yeah.
press. Because I went to an event as invited by someone else, and the feel that I got in this event, it was like, oh, this is all fanboys. Like these are customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
They reward people who are super loyal with their wallets, essentially, right? Like everyone that I was talking to, they're like, oh, we have 20 Teslas. You have every single version, and I was
Right.
like, oh, that's why you're here. I'm the only one that doesn't belong in here, because at that time, I wasn't even a Tesla owner. There's also that possibility, but I mean, you might very well be blacklisted.
No, I think you're probably totally right there, and that's one of the reasons why I don't discuss it very often, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. The thing that really makes me sad about that all, though, is I really enjoy talking to Elon Musk. I've talked to him several times in the past, and when I have, I've tried to ask him a really techie, nerdy question, and I love hearing how his mind works. First time I was at the Fremont facility, way back before Tesla was a big name. I think I talked to Elon about supercapacitors. And as soon as I mentioned supercapacitors, his eyes kind of glassed over a little bit and he went, he really enjoys this stuff. He's a smart guy. He knows his stuff. And that I would love to get that Elon back, because I miss that Elon. I miss hearing his cool, super nerdy, super intelligent, really well-informed brain in action without what we see now, which is, I feel, maybe him looking over his back a lot of the time. And I think Tesla, he has a right to feel threatened, because the mainstream press, the mainstream media have absolutely been terrible to Tesla in the past.
Yeah.
And
Well,
there is definitely confirmation bias.
Yeah. And he's
but
got
there is confirmation bias on the other side. Sorry?
He's got like these battles that he's going not only with the media, but also with the whole financial segment with the shorts. Didn't he just had a thing in Twitter this weekend or something?
Yeah. Well, he's supported Kanye West running for president.
Oh, yes.
And then somebody's like, you know that Kanye West is like anti-abortion, right? And Elon was like, oh, okay, we have some differences of opinion there. So I mean, I wouldn't want to be him. He's crazy smart, and he's in the public eye.
Did you see his tweet about the SEC?
SEC? I mean, I know he reached an agreement with them recently. I didn't see the other ones that have come out.
No, but he said that the SEC stands for. He said for something, but the E stands for Elon. So you can.
He's made several over the years.
So you're like, oh wow, he just insulted them by not really insulted them, right? Like he doesn't think highly. He doesn't respect them. I mean, he said that, right? He said that openly.
Right. But I mean, we also had this weird. So there's a thing going around Twitter at the moment. It's a product for Tesla owners, for gentlemen Tesla owners, that is a little bit R-rated. And I'm waiting for Elon. To comment on that.
Oh, really? Not the shorts. This is something else. The shorts.
No. This is a personal massage device for Tesla owners who are men. It seems to be a legitimate product made by an erotic toy company in Washington State.
What?
I've been doing some digging into them.
Oh, he must be brewing something. He must be working on a special tweet for that. Because you could tell that they're not off the cuff like some of them. Because obviously they require quite a bit of like, although he is a billionaire, so he can make things happen really quickly too. So even if it was off the cuff, he could be like, hey, do this thing, make this product that doesn't exist. And people, he can wheel things, right, to existence, I think.
Right.
That's so interesting.
But then, I mean, he's a hustler too, right? He hustles. He's very good at it.
Yeah. That guy is promising. Did you hear the story about that battery that I had here? So I got my hand. Okay, so a few weeks ago, I get in the mail a special package, and it had a Falcon 9 rocket battery, lithium battery. Right? So I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, so I do a teaser. I'm like, I'm going to take this apart and show everyone what's inside. I want to tear it apart and see how they build batteries, right? But I make a teaser. I basically say like, hey, look at what I got, this thing. I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to show you whatever. So I threw it out there because I'm like, I'm probably going to get in trouble. You don't know, right? I've gotten in trouble with Tesla before for revealing stuff that I shouldn't have, right? Not too much trouble. It's just they didn't want me to do it, but I'm like, whatever. I'm nobody. Who cares? I don't care. Like, what can you offer me, to keep this info private or whatever? But then what happens is that I get an email from their security like department, and they're basically saying this stuff is highly controlled, and it's not. It's federally highly controlled. It's basically a part of a intercontinental missile. Highly controlled. So they have a thing where the fines are super huge, and there's huge like jail fines. If I'm caught shipping this stuff and I'm caught like transporting it from state lines, if I'm caught trying to ship it outside of the country, that's like a major like deal, right? So they're like, look, you shouldn't have this thing. We don't know how it ended up in your hands, but we should really have it back. Can we send a team over to you and get it, And at this point, I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, like, I don't want to have this thing. They said that it was stolen property, And so I'm like, well, it's not stolen. I mean, I don't know how. It's probably a mistake that ended up in my desk. But so anyways, they were super nice about it. They sent 2 team members from their thing. And people were so crazy. They were asking me to put demands like, oh, Elon himself has to come and all kinds of nonsense. People were suggesting that I do.
Why?
And the reality
I don't know how I missed that.
I'm like, I just want it out of here. Like, if this stuff is really this dangerous, and they were super nice. They could totally have gotten the feds involved in this, because now this is something that it shouldn't be in the hands of civilians, and it was. And, it was three of these batteries that went around, and one of them ended up in Rich's hands. And he like teased it on one of his videos too. And right away, Rich was like, screw them. No, who are they? Are you sure that they're really like from SpaceX and stuff? He was all that against them, right? Like, where the rest of us were like, we don't want this thing. Come pick it up, So they did.
Wow.
They picked it up. And they were super nice. That was the thing that I was trying to get the point across.
Did they have sunglasses and one of those little pens that goes, excuse me, Mr. Garcia, just look at the slide here.
I wouldn't know. I checked the security cameras. I actually set up some security cameras, temporary, just to cover the area so they would come in. I mean, I was genuinely nervous because I didn't know, who was gonna come. And I even looked up they gave me the names of the 2 officers that were coming. And I looked them up, and they're like, one of them's like ex-military. And dude, these people were the nicest people. And I thought, oh, they're security officers. They're not going to be cool at all. They're not going to know anything exciting about the company. They're basically like paid security guards, right? Completely wrong. These dudes were like super knowledgeable about what's going on at Tesla, what's going on at SpaceX. I almost get the feeling that everybody that works there, they've joined the mission. They've joined the broader mission of let's change the world.
Of course.
And they were telling me about Starlink. and how they are using it right now to play video games in-house. They have already stations. So actually,
Yeah.
by, you know, like the upper or northern United States are going to get this first, because that's where the satellites are at.
Right, exactly.
They already have stations, and they have the internal communications of them.
I cannot wait for Starlink, and I would pay a huge amount of money. That is one thing. That's one thing I would pay for from Elon, one of Elon's companies. I am not going to buy a Tesla product because I disagree with Tesla's repair
The repair
procedures and
so they change it?
the whole
What if he changes
anti. If he changes it, if he said, yeah, we're going to allow third-party repairs, or we're going to make it easy for people to buy parts, then I would consider it, definitely.
Do you think the reason why that is because it's just lower in in the priority list, right? Like he's got a list of priorities, right? And obviously the right to repair, the right to, like, it's probably low. Or you think he's actually against, or him and or his whatever?
I think Tesla is against it because it knows that if people do anything stupid, it comes back to Tesla. And I totally understand that.
Liability.
Right, liability.
You know, I think, yeah, I guess you could be right. But I also think,
I mean, it took a long time. Sorry, carry on.
To what?
It took a long time for Tesla to agree to third-party repairers.
Yeah. But that, I think, because they have to, well, first, because they have to manage an image that is being constantly by everyone, right?
Right.
So I could totally understand. I think I would do the same thing. If I was in their shoes, I'd be like, no, this is a closed system. Nobody gets in, because then sabotage. You know, it's like everybody's against us. Everybody's trying to make us look bad. There's a ton of people that are rooting for the demise of Tesla right now. So you're like, you open up the doors, you're going to let some of those people in. So they're like, close the doors, shut them. I have a feeling that is the reasoning. And it's not really because they're anti-repair, right to repair, right? I think it's just they're not there yet. It's a young company. I think it's vulnerable. I don't think it's these numbers that they're saying that they're like more valuable than these are just imaginary, because they're not producing the same amount of product. They're not untouchable yet. They're not like these other legacy car companies. I don't think they are, in my opinion, right? I think they're very small, very vulnerable. There's a lot of goodwill behind them, but there's a lot of people, looking for them to go down.
I think they have a very specialist area of expertise. And look, I am a total hypocrite, and I don't mind admitting this. So, Apple iPhone, right? This is an Apple iPhone 10.
Yeah.
And I understand that that's hypocritical based on what I've just said, but I can buy replacement parts for this. If this screen was to break, I could buy a replacement screen. And I have repaired Apple computers myself for many years. And if it got to a point where Apple, which it's just starting to look like it might, because they've got the whole T2 chip thing, and it's all kind of, you can't replace your hard drive anymore. At that point, then yes, I am definitely going in the back of my head, is this the last generation of Macs that I use?
Yeah.
For that very reason. And you know, at the moment I'm able to still get through with the computers I have, using the hacked systems that I have. I've owned a Hackintosh before. I built my own clone Mac. I've been working on Mac computers since 92, 93. In fact, that's what got me through college. I would go down to I lived in London, and I went down to this to the Jewish Quarter, and there was this lovely guy who had basically what we'd call it a bric-a-brac store. It was basically, he did house clearance. So basically, when people died or people moved, he would clear their houses and then put stuff up for sale in the shop. And he realized that I knew computers, and so he would basically collar me on the street sometimes. He says, "Come here, I've got something to show you." And I would barter with him to buy these old machines that were broken or something was wrong with them. I'd fix them up and then I'd sell them on to colleagues, fellow students at college. And he also appreciated me because I was really, I don't mind, oh God, I'm admitting to this. Being the Hasidic Jewish community, they were very strict about what happened on a Friday, right? Okay. Soon as sunset came, day was over, must not do any trading, must not do anything. I ended up going to his shop generally 20 to 30 minutes before I knew he had to close.
Oh, okay.
And he would always give me a great deal because he respected that I knew that he wanted to close a deal before the sunset. And so I would close a deal with him, and he would joke to me about it. It became a thing. We would joke about it with each other. And then I'd fix that computer and sell it on. So I've got a background knowledge of Macs, and that's why I still have them today. But if I was coming to Apple as a brand new Virgin user, no way, no how would I be using Apples right now for that same reason that I'm kind of not sure about Tesla. Now, if someone gave me a wrecked Tesla, that would be different.
Yeah. Well, they will become available because there's so many of them now, right? The Model 3 are flooding the markets, and the reason why I say this is because it's going to become unmanageable. There's no way they will be able to stay closed forever because there's so many Teslas now. This is going to spring up like whole industry of repair shops for Teslas, right? And
there already is.
Well, there's a few starting, but definitely it's gonna be.
We just don't talk about them.
Yeah, there is definitely. But yeah, but these are stuff that we're hacking them, and it's okay right now to be hacking them because it's early, right, or whatever, and then But I think when everyone has these cars, which everyone does, by the way, you see the Model Prius everywhere, you see them here. I mean, literally,
absolutely everywhere.
It's everyone's got them. You're like, oh my! Remember in the 90s or 2000s or 2000s when those Honda Accords were
Civics.
The Civics and Honda Accords.
Civics and Honda Accords.
Those green ones. Remember those green ones? It were everywhere. Every other car was a green Honda Accord. Well, a green one or a gold one or a white one or a black one. But the Honda Accords were just invading the scenery here in Southern California. That's how the Model 3 is, by the way.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's what Aaron still drives, right? Aaron still drives a 90, I want to say it's a 93 Accord. That champagne-y goldy color.
Yeah, the long one.
She still owns and drives one. Yeah.
The long one, right? Not for little, because then they changed to the next body, which was bulgy. It was it was taller. I had a friend in high school that had one, and it was such a weird thing because it's like a sedan. It's like a family sedan, right? Like Accord. But he lowered it, and he had a big speakers in the back, and we thought he was the coolest guy in the block, you know what I mean? Because we were 16, and he had a car, basically.
But why did everybody have those cars? Because the real reason that everybody ran around in Hondas, right? My generation goes when anybody asks me what car should I buy, if it's not an electric one, I'll say, well, if you're not looking for an electric one, you're probably going to go with the Japanese model because they've got a reliability, they're good reliability reputation. And that's why Honda was so popular back then, because you could repair them. You could mod them, you could drop them, you could add in an extra air filter, performance air filter. You could change out parts because parts were available. The whole modding community. And we've lost that. We've lost that interest and that drive for car people who love, mucking around with cars. And you would go to an event or you'd see someone with a car and you'd say, you'd ask them what they had done to it. Yeah. And the person would have a big smile on their face and they'd lift the hood and they'd tell you all of the things that they'd done to this car for an extra, 10, 15 brake horsepower.
Yeah.
We don't get that anymore, not in the EV world.
We haven't, not yet. Well, it is on the like on the underground circles. You're right, it happens.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
but not as mainstream, not in the open. And I think it's going to change. I'm hopeful that it's going to change.
I'm hopeful it's going to change. But let me ask you, why do you think Tesla and other companies are so afraid of that? Because I know 4 or 5 projects that have been either re-engineered Teslas, or they have been take a Tesla, take all of the things that make a Tesla out of the Tesla, and then put it in name of vehicle here.
Yeah.
Phenomenal projects, ranging from bespoke project that was commissioned by somebody with, you know, a bank balance that is so large they can live off the interest, through to people like Rich, who have literally scrimped and saved to get to a point where they can buy a project car and work on it and do all of that stuff. We don't talk about it because people are scared of what will happen if they do. And I've met people time and time again, even Tesla owners, in hushed tones at events. You hear them talking about issues they've had with their car or issues they've had with something, and they're not willing to publicly talk about it because they're worried about the backlash, but also they're worried about what will happen if they do. And I feel that that's just such a bad experience, because we need to be able to go, hey, this car is so well engineered, you can take all of these things out of it and shoehorn it into whatever the car is, a Land Rover or whatever, and you've still got a functional, amazing car. Wow, isn't this crazy?
Yeah.
To, there is a problem with my car and Tesla needs to improve how they fix it. And then when they do fix it, go, yay, I had this really big problem with my car and Tesla came along and they fixed it and everything's great. It's back to that praise when praise is due and criticism when criticism is due.
Yeah. I think there's a legitimate reason to give them a break. I think, okay, so I'll give you an example, right? A few years ago, I was building a car, and there are these controllers, the motor controllers, right? The AC50 has this Curtis controller. And Curtis is this giant company that makes controllers for all kinds of industries. They're massively produced in Puerto Rico. They're in every big system that has an electric motor that needs a variable frequency drive, right? So the way we are using them, it's a tiny bit spec, like we're not even existent to them, right? There's one little company here in Southern California that has designed software to put in these, they're essentially forklift controllers. I mean, yeah, that's vastly what they're used for, mostly, right? And so then they're taking out software, they're putting in their own software, and that allows us to have a street legal vehicle, right? It's like, it basically makes it whatever, all the little features that you need. So it's a very fragile industry. It's a tiny company in Southern California that is using this big, super popular device, right? And they're doing it with the blessing of Curtis, by the way, right? So when a couple of years ago, I was building one of those and one of them went up in flames and it shot flames like crazy high. I mean, this one, I would have probably gotten like 1 million views had I uploaded a video, right? Because I had like pictures and stuff. I decided to not, because I was like, look, if I do this, it's a very fragile scene, the DIY conversion stuff, right? If we do this, if I make enough noise, Curtis might say like, you know what? It's not worth it for us. Like, you're giving us bad PR, like cut it off. We're not gonna let the small shop in Southern California that is modifying her product to do the thing that you're doing that you just blew up, right? So I thought it's not worth it. Just for me to like get a good story and get some views and maybe make a little bit of money, I might kill this. Right? So I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything, and I never published anything. Now I'm talking about it because it's been years, and it doesn't matter now. If they kill that, who cares? We have so many other things, right? I think a lot of us or a lot of Tesla owners might feel the same way about Tesla. It's like, it's too fragile still. Like we gotta give them breaks until they're there. I don't know when there is. I don't know when they're gonna be. I don't know when they're like with that point is that you should now give them criticism when they deserve it. But I think a lot of people feel like maybe we're not there yet. I don't know. Maybe.
You know, I think they're there because they have that market segment now. You know, they're dominating the luxury car market. They're dominating the plug-in market in Europe and in the US. And I think at that point, yeah, maybe that's the point.
So you think
I want to just let you know. I think we're there. I want to let you know that the connection is starting to play up. I heard every other word from you in that last segment, so I don't know if there's an issue, but I just wanted to warn you in case there is a storm coming, and I suspect that is potentially going to cause us some issues.
It's so your video, it's a little bit laggy, but
to let you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if
I just checked my connection and my connection, but nope. You just went. I can't hear a single word you're saying. It's just like a robot, which is fun.
It might be us because we can hear you completely fine. Let me check.
Okay.
Let's see. Speed test. I'm doing a speed test. Let's see if and I have a couple of networks here, and I think I'm plugged into the wrong one, I think, to tell you the truth. Well, not really.
That's possible. Yeah.
It might be us.
Is it running really slow or what?
Yeah, the download is really slow for us. Let me see if I can change. There we go. Let's try this one. This one's a 5G. Let's see how it goes. And then
I've lost him completely.
And it's funny because I can hear. Am I back? Am I back?
No? Sound noise?
I can hear it. I can see it. Oh, there's a chat?
Yeah, put the down to the bottom. You can chat, right?
Chat. Oh, yeah, chat.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello. I can't hear you. I can hear you fine. Well, I'm glad you can hear me fine. We could continue this via, whatever. But you are just sounding like a robot now. I can see like every other frame of you. It's kind of like you're a series of static things. I guess it might be a good chance for me to say thank you for having me on the show. I've had a really good fun time, and we should do this again sometime. Oh, I just heard something. Can I hear? Did I hear?
1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh,
yes,
no.
It sounds very like you're down the bottom of the deep sea, but
this might be something else unrelated to this. It might be like the app or something that is. Yeah, it's the first time that we get that. That we get something weird like that. All right. Well, listen, we are at an hour and 40, so I think maybe it's a sign. No, it's a sign.
I got 40 sign. So I don't know what the rest was that you said.
That's so funny. All right.
But,
let me
this brings me back memories. I was interviewing someone from GM a couple of weeks ago, and for some reason their connection kept dropping. And I hope you can still hear me, because this is a kind of a funny anecdote. And GM, their press team, are very kind of, very staid, very strict about what they want the communication messages to be. And the connection dropped like 4 times, and you could hear the press person getting a little bit more stressed every time.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, It has been fun. I'm assuming that we are finishing. I can't actually hear you properly. You just sound like a robot now. But thank you so much for having me on the show. It has been fantastic, and I hope that we can chat again sometime. Maybe I can pick your brains more when it comes to our photovoltaic solar panel plans and stuff. One way conversation. Should we call it quits? Yes, that's a good idea. Plug your socials. Oh, I'm not giving you my social security number. You can find me at A Minor Journey. That is my personal Twitter account. That's the one where I'm most active. You will find everything from my views on politics and everything from politics through to LGBTQIA stuff. I sometimes have giant fluffy animals on there as well as electric car stuff. And then if you want to follow the actual Transport Evolved channel, that is at Transport Evolve, because Transport Evolved doesn't fit Twitter's hashtag fail. You can also find us on YouTube at Transport Evolved. We have a nice little channel over there. New content every day, or at least we try to. And we also have a second channel called Transport Evolved Take 2, which is great fun. You'll find links to the rest of the team there, and we also have a Patreon and a Ko-fi and a Bitcoin and all those other things. But check out the channel, because we've just changed the way that we are making our videos, and we've gone a little bit more moody with the kind of more intimate lighting and stuff like that. We've got some great new animations on the way. We'll be introducing the city car project at some point, and also we have to introduce you to our new writer Morgan, who has been working on all kinds of fun pieces about all kinds of things that you'll get to see soon, and we'll make sure that everybody knows when he's written a script and versus me or one of the other team members writing a script. But thank you very much, everybody, and
thank you for
I don't know why.
Yeah, thank you for being on the podcast.
You just said thank you, so thank you, and I will see you all again soon.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. I have no idea what just happened. It's just I've checked my internet connection. I've got a great download speed, so I don't know quite what happened. But thank you so much. I hope that you can edit that out, or if you want to keep it in just for a fun, that's totally okay with me too. So yeah, I will hopefully catch up with you soon. I think you're putting your thumbs up. You look like a 8-bit character on Mario now. So anyway, take care, guys. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Okay, you too. Bye.